On June 15, 1859, an American farmer shot a pig for eating his potatoes. In response, the United States and the British Empire deployed 461 soldiers, 14 cannons, 5 warships, and over 2,000 men. The standoff lasted 12 years, and the total number of casualties on both sides combined was the pig. This is real. Historians call it the Pig War, because it was a war about a pig. And honestly, the pig is the most normal part of this story, because by the end, the border of the United States gets personally decided by the Emperor of Germany. Stay with me. To understand the Pig War, you need to know that in 1846, America and Britain divided up the Pacific Northwest with a document called the Oregon Treaty. The treaty said the border ran through, quote, the middle of the channel between the mainland and Vancouver Island. Small problem. There are 2 channels, and between them a pile of islands that now technically belong to both countries at once. The men who wrote the treaty were 5,000 miles away and had never seen this place. They assumed there was one channel, signed the paper, and went to lunch. The biggest of the disputed islands was San Juan Island, 55 square miles of grass, trees, and absolutely no reason for an international crisis. Britain moved first. The Hudson's Bay Company set up a sheep ranch on it and shipped in 1,369 sheep. Running the ranch was a company man named Charles Griffin, who let his animals wander wherever they wanted. Because who was going to complain? The island was empty. Then America moved second. By 1859, somewhere between 25 and 29, American settlers had shown up and declared the island U.S. soil. Nobody is sure of the exact number. This was not an organized operation. One of them was Lyman Cutler, a gold prospector from Kentucky, whose gold career had gone so well that he was now a potato farmer. Cutler built a cabin and planted a potato patch directly in the middle of the Hudson's Bay Company's sheep run. He also built a fence around it, sort of. Even Cutler later admitted the fence had gaps, which brings us to the pig. Among Griffin's free-range animals was a large black boar with one defining personality trait. He loved Lyman Cutler's potatoes. This was not a one-time thing. The pig kept coming back. Cutler kept chasing it out. The pig kept returning. This was a lifestyle. So, the morning of June 15, 1859, Cutler looks out his window. The pig is in the patch again, digging up his potatoes, eating them in front of him. And Cutler just snapped. He grabbed his rifle, walked outside, and shot the pig. One shot. In that moment, Lyman Cutler committed the only killing of an entire war. To his credit, Cutler felt bad almost immediately. He went to Griffin and offered him $10 for the pig. Griffin looked at the $10 and demanded $100. That's roughly $3,800 in today's money for a pig. That was a repeat offender. According to legend, the negotiation went like this. Cutler: it was eating my potatoes. Griffin: it is up to you to keep your potatoes out of my pig. Historians think that quote might be made up, which is a shame, because it is the single greatest sentence in the history of diplomacy. Cutler refused to pay, so British authorities threatened to arrest him. Quick reminder of the scale here. This is the British Empire. It controls roughly a quarter of the planet, and it is threatening one Kentucky potato farmer over a pig. The American settlers, all 25 to 29 of them, responded by writing a petition asking for U.S. military protection. And unfortunately for everyone, that petition landed on the desk of General William S. Harney. Two things to know about General Harney. 1, he commanded every U.S. soldier in the region. 2, he absolutely despised the British. Harney sailed to the island, heard the pig story, and made a completely proportionate decision. He sent in the United States Army. Specifically, he sent Captain George Pickett. Yes, that Pickett. Gettysburg Pickett. We'll get back to him. On July 27th, Pickett landed on San Juan Island with 66 soldiers and a flag, and declared the island American. The British governor, James Douglas, took this extremely well. He sent the HMS Tribune, a 31-gun warship, to park directly offshore and stare at Pickett's camp. Then he sent 2 more warships. Pickett was now outgunned roughly a navy to 0. His response was to reportedly announce, "We'll make a Bunker Hill of it," which is a very cool thing to say when you have 66 men and 0 boats. Douglas then ordered Captain Hornby of the Tribune to land his Marines and remove Pickett by force. Hornby read the order, looked at the situation, and decided to simply not. Remember Hornby. He is one of only 2 men in this entire story who will behave like an adult. Meanwhile, both sides kept shipping in more guys. By the end of August, the Americans had 461 soldiers and 14 cannons dug into a hilltop, offshore, 5 British warships, 70 guns, over 2,000 men. All of this over a pig. Then the grown-up arrived. Rear Admiral Robert Baines, commander of Britain's entire Pacific Fleet. Douglas ordered him to land the Marines and take the island. Baines looked at the order, looked at the island, looked at the pig situation, and delivered one of the great no's in military history. He refused to, quote, "involve 2 great nations in a war over a squabble about a pig." That is a real quote from a real admiral, and the entire British Pacific Fleet went, "Yeah, fair enough," so nobody fired. Instead, the 2 armies settled in and, since both sides had orders not to shoot first, reportedly spent their days yelling insults at each other, trying to trick the enemy into starting it, which was genuinely lucky, because news of the standoff hadn't even reached Washington or London yet. When President Buchanan finally found out that one of his generals had semi-started a war with the British Empire over livestock, he was, historians agree, not thrilled. London was equally horrified. Nobody in charge in either capital had ordered any of this. So Buchanan deployed the biggest weapon America had, General Winfield Scott. Scott was 73 years old, a hero of 2 wars, and his actual job at this point was travelling around cleaning up messes made by other generals. It took him 6 weeks just to get there. Scott negotiated a deal with Douglas. Each side would keep about 100 men on the island and everyone else would go home. The Americans set up American camp on the windy southern tip. The British set up English camp on a cosy bay, 13 miles north. The Royal Marines then immediately planted a formal English garden in a war zone, and then began 12 years of the most relaxed military occupation in human history. The 2 enemy garrisons celebrated the 4th of July together. Then they celebrated Queen Victoria's birthday together. They held athletic competitions. They visited each other's camps. They threw parties. According to the National Park Service, the single greatest threat to peace during the entire 12-year conflict was whiskey. 12 years. Soldiers rotated home. New soldiers arrived and had to be informed they were technically at war, which must have been confusing at the parties. Meanwhile, in 1861, Captain Pickett was called away, because America had started a different war, with itself. He joined the Confederacy, and at Gettysburg he finally got his giant doomed charge, which went very badly. He did not, in fact, make a Bunker Hill of it. Back on San Juan Island, meanwhile, the war's total body count held steady at 1 pig. By 1871, America and Britain were tidying up all their old arguments with a big treaty, and somebody remembered the Pig Island. Neither side would budge on whose island it was, so they did the mature thing. They agreed to let a neutral third party decide. The neutral third party they picked was Kaiser Wilhelm I, the Emperor of Germany. So, yes, part of the border between the United States and Canada was decided personally by a German emperor. This is real. Look it up. Wilhelm handed the case to a three-man commission which met in Geneva and deliberated for nearly a year. A year, over one island, that a pig died on. On October 21st, 1872, the ruling finally came down. The border ran through Harrow Strait. San Juan Island was American. On November 25th, the Royal Marines lowered their flag, packed up their garden, and rode home. Final score, after 13 years of war, Britain, 0 dead. America, 0 dead. Pig, 1. Today, the whole island is a U.S. national park, and at English Camp, American park rangers still raise the British flag every single day, one of the only places on Earth where the U.S. government flies another country's flag. As for the pig, no grave, no monument, no statue. History never even recorded his name. The most famous casualty in the history of peaceful conflict resolution, and we just call him the pig. The morale of the story: if you absolutely must start a war, pick one where both sides are too embarrassed to actually fight it. Subscribe. It's up to you to keep your potatoes out of my pig.